And man, Mike is fiery. He's motivated. You can tell he loves his players. You know that the players love him. He's incredibly smart, well-spoken. And there's something to having a little bit of extra fire underneath you, the way everything kind of went down. And
Hey everyone, welcome into TexAgs Rewind, presented by our good friends at Specs here at the Rollo Insurance Studio. David Nuno and Nick Savage. Nick, today was kind of a back and forth day, right? We did look ahead to Michael Early and how good of a hire we think it is, and of course we went back a little bit on the whole Schloss stuff. What was your favorite part of the program?
Probably Michael Barash, hearing what he had to say.
Yeah.
He was good. I think we should, look into having him on as a regular guest. I know he's got some duties with Sam Houston, but I would love to hear more of what he has to say. And I'm kind of like, Billy, like he said, I'm ready to turn the page. I'm ready to look forward. I'm tired of feeling angry. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But by the way, I am so looking forward to SEC Media Days. Because, I will make eye contact with people. I will. Anyway, what else did we have on the show today?
Well, we had, like I said, Michael Barash. We had Billy. We had Brawny on there to talk about the hiring of Mike Early, and we had Olin Buchanan, of course.
Olin Buchanan. Love that guy. That and more. It's TexAgs Rewind.
But if you can't get Vitello and you can't get O'Sullivan for whatever reasons, then it just makes perfect sense to me. Early, the players love him. You got these guys were tantalizingly close to a national championship, and if you get Early, you have the opportunity to keep the nucleus of that team intact.
Yep.
Heck, Aschenbeck is petitioning for another year. And if you do, and you also get a chance to kind of throw in a curveball at Schlossnagel, and now I got to go. I just think it makes sense. I think it's the right thing to do.
Now there's people, and they're watching, and they're going to comment, and they're going to say that we're ridiculous. This spin, everything is spin here.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
I just said there's a couple other guys I would have gone for if you could get them, but if you can't, this guy makes a lot of sense.
And then they'll say, see, you are a little university. You can't get the guys that you want. Not necessarily. That's not how it works, because I think we could have had a lot of the guys that were on our list.
Saturday, I wrote a column, and I was just saying that A&M should consider the coach at Clemson. No, not Bakich, because he was staying at Clemson, but Dabo Swinney. But consider his story. When he was an assistant who had never been a head coach, a position coach, not even a coordinator. Yeah. And they said, you know what, we like this guy. Let's make him the head coach. And he's the best coach they've ever had. And he's won 2 national championships. Kirby Smart was never a head coach.
Well, don't you have to basically, you have to be an assistant at some point to become the head coach.
Right.
That's kind of like the path.
Yeah, usually they say, hey, take the assistant and then goes to a mid-major and then proves himself and works his way up. No, but why? Well, skip the middleman. If you think this guy can do the job, and let's listen, I know there's a lot going to it, but it's not like it's brain surgery or rocket science. It's baseball. And the guy's been in baseball his whole life. So the players love him. The players vehemently advocated for him.
Let's talk a little bit about why it makes sense versus why others think it doesn't. And I'm going to read you a message that came in to me. Everyone talks about the first-time hire and compares it to Vitello, Kirby, et cetera. The part everyone's missing that I think you should at least acknowledge is first-time head coaches you mentioned. Everyone mentions they have more experience, which made them candidates to be a head coach. Vitello spent 4 years under Van Horn and at TCU. Second coach was recruiting coordinator. That's the issue with Early, was a volunteer his first 2 years. This past year, he was full-time for the first time. I want you to take that and explain the why it makes sense for this team, this program right now.
Well, it's not just Tony, though. There's a bunch of really talented, really good coaches in college baseball that somebody took a chance on. Mm-hmm. Kevin O'Sullivan, Tim Corbin, O'Connor at Virginia. All of those guys were promoted from being assistant coaches. Eric Bakich at Clemson. Michigan took a chance on him. Somebody had to take a chance on these guys. And I think Billy did such a good job of explaining kind of how the week went. And I think Mike Early was in a group of candidates, right? That was, okay, we have our shoot for the moon. Let's see if we can get pull somebody that nobody expects us that we can, pull somebody off of a top program nationally, like everybody knows, whether it be O'Connor, Vitello, whatever, O'Sullivan. And so that was that pool of coaches. And then there was the Skip Johnson, Dan Hefner, Tom Walter, Mike Early was in that group. And I think when Mike Early interviewed, I think he vaulted himself into a different category. And I think that interview went so far in making his dream of being the head coach here one day a reality. And I think that we started to hear that it became very real once he interviewed, because everything we'd heard was like, man, that guy just absolutely killed that interview. Wise beyond his years, has a plan.
Thoughts on the Michael Early hire?
Fired up would be an understatement. I've had a few, I'm out of baseball now, but I've had a few interactions with Michael. And man, Mike is fiery. He's motivated. You can tell he loves his players. You know that the players love him. He's incredibly smart, well-spoken. And there's something to having a little bit of extra fire underneath you, the way everything kind of went down. And I'm extremely proud of him. We're not very close, but I can tell you that I think I speak for every former player that we certainly have his back with whatever he's about to go through. So we're certainly fired up for him.
How concerned are you with his lack of experience as a head coach? He has zero experience as a head coach, especially at this level.
Yeah, I don't think I have any concerns because he's been around it, right? I mean, when as an assistant coach, I think you're grooming yourself to eventually be the head guy. And how do you get experience without being in the chair, right? It helps that he's been at some winning programs before. He certainly knows the ins and outs of our program. And then he's surrounding himself with elite talent just with his staff, right? So at the end of the day, a head coach is only as good as his assistants. And man, he's got some good ones coming in.
Yeah, he does. People were calling it spin, but I look at the situation and I look at if you weren't going to be able to get Tony Vitello, and by the way, I don't know if Tony Vitello would have been the right hire either, but I'm intrigued by it for obvious reasons. I think the getting Coach Early in here, to me, it keeps what you have as much as possible, and you can win with the right culture, and I think you're keeping that culture.
Yeah, definitely. I think whenever there's someone that's been around it, I mean, they played for Game 3 in the national championship game, and that guy's sitting in the driver's seat, right? And whenever you're around that, I think that's the experience that's needed, right? Because everyone says they want to go to Omaha. Well, you don't know how to get to Omaha unless you get there, and he knows how to do that. You kind of see the pouring support from the players that are in the portal that will more than likely pull their names, I'm assuming. But it just goes to show the relationship that he's built. And then just the support that he's been given from those guys, right? I think that's the beauty of college athletics is, although it is a business, it is a relationship-based business, and I think Early certainly exemplifies that.
It's not the who. It's not, you didn't hire Mike Early for the who. You hired him for the why, and I keep saying that. Why are these guys so adamant? Why did they go as 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old kids to the president of the university and the athletic director and say, this is our guy. This is who you should hire. This is who we will play for. This is who's best for Texas A&M. You ask yourself why. And it is the relationships with those players. It is their belief in him as a coach, as a leader, his sincerity, like the man that he is. Like, those are the reasons. So you say why, and then you go, okay, he does lack experience. And I think you'd be lying to say that hiring a guy with no experience at Texas A&M as a head coach is a risk. Tony Vitello was a risk for Tennessee. Rob Childress was a risk for A&M. Sully at Florida was a risk for them. O'Connor at Virginia, who's won a national title and been there 20 years, was a risk for them. Like, you have to say that at this point when you hire a coach that hadn't been a head coach, like Mike Elko was a risk for Duke in theory. Well, he's never been a head coach. What do you know? Brent Venables was a risk for OU. These are guys that the jury is still out, although at Duke, Elko knocked it out of the park. And by the way, just for the record, I'm going to say this. enough of I'm disappointed in the references by Slosh to Mike Elko. Mike Elko was at every single baseball game he could be at. He was a loyal, fervent supporter of that program and that baseball team. And I'm here to tell people he did say goodbye to the Duke players. There was a Zoom meeting. There was an erroneous article written that I think was since corrected. He Zoomed with the entire team to tell them he was leaving. So that it's neither here nor there, but it is relevant because it keeps getting brought up. He did handle it differently, and he did Zoom with the team. So,
but I ask you, why like, comment, and subscribe, Nick?
Man, YouTube audience has been killing it, by the way, recently. We appreciate all the support. Please keep up, like, comment, subscribe. Check out TexAgs.com and subscribe there if you want even more content. There's a lot of content we don't put on YouTube that you can get on TexAgs.com. So check it out. Check out our socials. Follow David Nuno on Twitter.
Please.
Why not?
Please do that. We'll see you next time.